getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 8 of this season, coming to you today from VIR. My name is Ron Maunz, alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, this is far from the first time we've been here on the North configuration of VIR. This track actually puts on some really good racing in these Formula Vs. It's a bit of a shock. It's a track that really doesn't get any use outside of these Formula V Weekend Warriors races, but it always feels like a bit of an unknown match made in heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. VIR North, you know, one of the better kind of school tracks out there, I would say. I'm a big fan of VIR, and a big fan of the full layout. We just had a little discussion there about the grand layout as well. You know, the full kind of GP, let's call it, layout around here is probably my favorite. This is probably my second favorite, and then maybe grand after that's a little bit extra, I'd say, like we were saying in the run-up here is a little bit silly, but the North layout's actually not too bad. It does have a bit of a tacked-on feeling corner in it, but it leads to a pretty technical spot, and I think we're going to race around here pretty good. We have in the past.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. We've got enough drafting opportunities heading around this track, especially in the form of that start-finish straightaway, that you can really get some moves done, and we'll have to see how these racers manage it. Also have a pretty large field, it must be said, of racers here today. We seeing some returning names, some usual ones, and we want to thank Russ Telker for sponsoring today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We'll be running on board with him in a couple of moments' time. I'm trying to figure out whether or not he's actually out there on the racetrack at the present moment. Look like yeah, he's actually not even here. How about that? So we'll say that we'll do an onboard lap with him out of spirit. So we'll just leave it at that. But still have a very stacked field of racers to take a look at. Here's Rob Wright in the number 11 car that we brought on board with, heading his way off through the final sector right now. Now this track, in an odd way, Josh, does kind of feel like you take all three sectors and they're like completely different cases from one another.
Yeah, you're definitely right, especially the back half of the course here when it kind of veers up off of the normal layout there. It starts to feel a little bit like a different track for a moment, for sure. And then maybe this front section as well, so much wider and faster feeling than some of the other parts of the track. Really important spot here that Rob Wright's going into. We're going to see a lot of passing into this area from our historic or from our previous races there. We've seen 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide going into that corner almost every lap over and over again, and I have a feeling we're going to see that again here today. So it does, again come down to just making good decisions and not trying to hold up your competitors too much, not getting too defensive out there as we see them kind of going through the kind of more technical sections here where, again, you don't want to be side by side necessarily through there. You want to get side by side maybe through this section, try to get a pass done, and then make sure you kind of get single file again for the more technical spots.
Yeah, so right now these drivers are already tackling the qualifying session. Darmay Toomey currently top of the pole right now at a 141.753. Bit of a gap between himself and your current front row sitter and your Spec 2 pole sitter of Jason Chen. Now, Jason Chen is actually in Spec 1, so I'm going to amend that statement and let you know that Angel Soto is actually top of the qualifiers in Spec 2 at the present moment. But Jason Chen, nice to see him back here in this series. A past Spec 2 champion in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. Very quick racer in his own right. Don't usually get to cover him too much anymore, but whenever he appears at here on the racetrack for the FVs, you know that he's always going to bring the thunder. Tortolo is qualified in 3rd at the present moment, with Andy Middleton in 4th. Jim Brewster is your P5 qualifier at the moment. Pole sitter in Masters. Never mind, right as I say that, it ages like milk in the Nevada sun. Alan Degas is now jumping in front of him. That was not by a lot either. 0.02 of a second. That is incredibly close. Jim knows his way around this racetrack quite well. I think it was one of the first times that we got the opportunity to cover a race here together, Josh. It was round 2 of season season 4, if I can get my words spat out in the proper order here. It was round 2 of season 4 of 2024, right when we started doing these broadcasts together for the very first time. And Jim and Tortello had a pretty stunning photo finish here where they were not covered by a lot. So Jim does know his way around this racetrack quite well.
Yeah, Jim Brewster's also, he's had some pace in previous races here. He's really been racy in a few different pieces of machinery, actually, in the last little while as well. So would not be surprised if he's up there close to the pointy end. Same thing with Alan Degassis as well, who we're seeing out there. Don't see every V race anymore, but he's got some speed out there for sure. And we might see him up near the top. Tortello actually kind of floating around in 4th place at the moment. A little bit uncharacteristic there, although lately he has not been making it up to the very pointy end necessarily in qualifying here. So he's had a bit of pretty stiff competition in the likes of Darmay Toomey and today Jason Chen as well, plugging in some good laps. Can't forget about Guido Marzucci there in 3rd place either as well. Been putting on probably one of his best performances in the Formula V's here this season. So man, we got a pretty good race on our hands here, I think, Ron. Coming into this, we've been here a few times as well, and it looks like there are some very fast, very racy drivers here up at the tip of the field. And this place isn't necessarily easy to pass and stuff around, except maybe down the front straight. Obviously, we'll be seeing back and forth passing there, I think. But I think we're in for a good one here, as I believe here Jason Chen just going to plug in another lap, see if he's got a better lap under his belt. Doesn't look like it on the timing screen there on the bottom road.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if this is an improvement from Jason Chen or not. I would captain to guess that it probably will not be, and survey says it is not. He will remain in second. Fun little notes to raise about Guido. There's a nice little story. Of course, our friend and colleague here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, the producer of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior shows that you can catch here on Slow Motion Broadcasting every single Sunday, thanks to Dirk Braun and his wonderful company, that being Dirky's Dickles. I always love saying that. But Guido... A great guy as well, fantastic guy to work with, and this was a funny thing that happened last night. So I don't usually bring this up on these broadcasts because I swore when I got into this that I wasn't going to use it as a means of self-promotion. But outside of these broadcasts that I do on Insert Company here nowadays, I make videos about racing history, and I got comments that I saw as I was just doing my grocery shopping last night, and it was something to the degree of, I got recommended this video, I click on, and I recognize the voice immediately, and then sure enough, it's from Guido. So there's only so much I can apologize to him about that jump scare and probably ruining his evening with the muttering dross that I post over on my YouTube channel. But Guido, hopefully that didn't affect his sleep too well. Certainly showing some good pace here at the moment, not too far behind Jason Chen, but Darme Toomey still jumping out to a huge gap. Now, we can't read too much into these qualifying results, can we, Josh? The track, it's got just enough of a draft whereby if you've got a slight whiff of it, you could be a little bit slow. It's fresh from me calling people slow. But if you can just stay in the drift, stay in the tow, you'll be golden in this race for the most part. Now, obviously, you got to hold your own, but still.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there for sure. That the other section of the course, let's call it the infield or the outfield from that section. The rest of the technical stuff, just there's not a lot of track there, really. There's this back straight as well that you can actually pull a bit of a gap on, but there's just not a lot of wiggly stuff to get away from the other drivers. So before you know it, you're back on that front straightaway getting drafted again every lap, and it's difficult. It's difficult to make a breakaway around here unless somebody makes a mistake or you force them into a mistake, or maybe press square to intimidate someone and they miss their braking period a little bit. And I think that's what you're going to have to be looking for out there today as well. Is I think key to the race today would be stay calm and stay clean, be there at the end, and the other one would be try to make your opponent make a mistake or something, or try to throw them off their game a little bit, because that's going to be really the only way that you're going to be able to get that pass done. I think without some luck, sometimes you just get a good run, you just get a good haul, and it might just work out for you. But I think today is going to be a bit of a strategy game for sure, leading up to the end of the race there and the final drop of the flag.
Yeah, it may be an intense game of leapfrog, but there's still a little bit of strategy that goes into playing leapfrog well. So we'll have to see who can leap well, who's going to be the frog, and I'm not really sure where to go from there. Jason Grotter comes across the line. He's currently qualified in P19. Does see an improvement lap time-wise, but still about 3/10 off of Nick Tullo, slotted in P18. Now, at this point, considering we have about 2 minutes left to go, I wonder if it is at all possible if we could take a look at the championship point standings as we head off into this round of the championship. Already into week number 8, which is... I think the right word would be disturbing. I remember the first few seasons I would do, a 12-week iRacing season, felt like 50 years. Now that this is, golly, season 1, 2, 3, I started broadcasting in season 1 of 2023, so I'm getting up there as an iRacing broadcaster. If we had our own version of the Today Show, I guess I would be awarded one of those like Today Show Smuckers jars for running 100 years old as iRacing broadcaster years go by. But yeah, very long into the season already. Time flies when you're having fun. But let's take a look at the championship point standings and start off with Spec 1. Tortello sits atop of the pole at the present moment. 623 points is his tally. Have to go a little bit farther back to find Darme Toomey in P2. Our SMB colleague Guido Marzucchi rounds out your top 3. A very good season for him. Right above series admin Michelle Lynn in 4th with Andy Middleton, Chris Montgomery, Brian Szynski, Nate Colasio, Felix Amos, and Rodrigo Tostes rounding out your top 10. I want to mention this. Dan in the YouTube chat saying that he's tuning into this broadcast from his oh baby Liam's first birthday party.
Hey,
so,
happy birthday, Liam! Right on.
I believe it's a slightly belated birthday, which I think his birthday was a couple of days ago, if my memory serves me correctly. But hope it's a nice little shindig going on up there to celebrate little baby Liam. And with Spec 1 taken care of, I think we'll take a look now at Spec 2, the other class that Dan races in, where it's been a very competitive season up to this point here in the championship. Here's how it looks. Jason Grider is in the points lead, but only 30 in front of Stephen Westcott in second. Brian Hansen isn't too far behind in third with Dan Szynski slotted in fourth. Gary Kittle is in P5 with Martin Visser, Michael Ladarula, Russ Telker, Angel Soto, and Gary Thompson completing your top 10 over there. Still very competitive at the front of that field. Meanwhile, we take a look at Masters, which has been one of the more competitive classes here in this entire season of Weekend Warriors action. Here's how it looks currently. Jim Brewster at 476, Andrew Love at 442, Nick Tolo only 20 back in third. And I was a little bit worried that I'd run a little bit long. We switched over now to the race session. I've been muttering so long, but there you can see.
Oh no, the overlay stuck.
We can see Stephen Tucker, Yurik Money, and Brad Cathcart running at your top 10 up there on the top of the screen. We need to break out the WD-40 or maybe a bit of Axel. Oh, there we go. It works out.
There we are.
Otherwise, I say Axel Grease. It works out fantastically. But let's take a look at the starting grid here for this race. Starmate Toomey will start from the pole. Jason Chen set to join him on the front row. Guido Marzuki going to be starting in third alongside Tortolo in fourth. Alan DeGassis will be in P5. Jim Brewster making up an all-Masters row number 3. Andy Middleton will start in P7 alongside Andrew Love with Yurik Money and Angel Soto, your Spec 2 pole sitter, completing your top 10.
And then in 11th place, we have Ken Poland. In 12th, we have Christopher Serrano. And if it would move for me, and there we go. I'm having a little bit of issues with a little WD-40 on there. In 13th, we have Brian Hansen from Spicy Racing Team. Kurt Nunez in 14th, Masters driver. In 15th, we have Michelle Lynn, admin and Duldime Racing driver. Rob Wright is in 16th, gotta be in it to win it driver. Like that one, from Canada as well. Trip Isley in 17th. In 18th, we have Nick Tullo. In 19th, Jason Grider. 20th, Wayne Buttermore from the back racing. Like to see him up a little bit from his usual positions there. He's doing good. And 21st, we have Charlie Rogers. 22nd, Gary Thompson. 23rd, Stephen Hicks. And in 24th, we have Tasha Gorbanov, well, also from Canada. And one more driver, I believe, in 25th, Stephen Westcott.
Yeah, Stephen Westcott in the 225 car, running at your Spec 2 field and your overall field in P25. So we were able to get through all of that, and now we're finally rolling on this formation lap, Josh. Quick little dash until we get the green flag and start off 30 minutes as going to be a little bit nerve-wracking, I think it's right to say, for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's, you're going to have to keep your head about you around here. Like we said, not a very big track. Going to be a lot of laps here today. Kind of two sections of the track. Like you said, almost feels like two different tracks. So, yeah, big thanks to Russell Telker and the ALS Association. Great cause and everything here today. So give generously if you can. And we got a race start coming.
Yeah, we're about to grab the green flag for round number 8 of this season. It's funny to say that these drivers are going to be nervous considering they raced at Summit Point last time out, but it's going to be a bucket of nerves as the green flag flies. The drivers are on their way, and we're racing here at VIR. Pretty commanding start there from our front row sitters, but you see Darmay Toomey feeling the pressure. Jason Chen on the high side, downtown into Horseshoe of turn number 1. Now Guido Marzuki trying to make something work on Tortolo. They're side by side as the front two finally single file out. Everybody else packed up a little bit as they had their way downtown to NASCAR Bend for the very first time, but Darmay Toomey doing everything that he needed to do to jump out to the lead right away.
Yeah, pretty good start sequence here so far. Pretty difficult section this at VIR here to get through cleanly. Of course, we have a lot of very professional drivers here making it look easy. Very nice. Yeah, great pictures there coming through that section. Just love this part of VIR here. Always really fun, but can be very difficult on that first lap if you end up having someone who just doesn't want to play ball with you. As we're going to get Jason Chen taking a pretty commanding shot here at the lead right off the bat. Good spot to do it as well. Did it nice and clean. Nobody really lost any time there as well. So Jason Chen putting on a bit of a clinic on how to get that a pass like that done into that section of the course there. You can see momentum has been kept. Everybody is flowing. Nobody got plugged there. We are looking real good here for our start sequence, aren't we, Ron? Don't want to jinx it, but wow.
Yeah, you know, I've given enough commentator jinx. I'm not touching that one. But Jason Chen proving that he can get a move done into turn number 7. Don't usually see a racer go for a move like that. I've always thought that it would be an okay overtaking opportunity if you're feeling particularly brave. He jumps into that top spot. But it's only a matter of time before the drivers behind pounce on him, just like he pounced on Dorme Toomey just about a half a lap ago as they head their way to the start-finish stripe to complete the first lap. As Jason Chen over toward Tullo, who's side by side with Dorme Toomey. Will Tullo try and split the difference? He backs at it a little bit, trying to hold off those Toomey who we were riding on board with there. Tullo trying to sweep around the outside to jump into that top spot. It's been not the best series of races as of recent for Toro, but I think he's looking to hit the ground running in the second half of this season and prove why he is a man to beat for the championship. Considering that Felix Moes isn't here once more, I have a distinct feeling that we're going to have a new champion. Their two-time reigning champion of Felix Samoa is not going to be able to defend his crown once more. Now, whether that's Tortolo getting the victory or somebody else only remains to be determined. But right now, Tortolo holding on to the top spots in this race, doing everything he needs to do to hold on to that top spot in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not going to be an easy one to hold on to around here, although we do know that Tor is definitely a bit of a specialist around here. He's had some pretty close wins around here. He's been able to hold people off, you know, the entire race and so on, and then still be there at the end. We've seen him do it many times, but we've had a couple real close finishes here that I believe Tor was the winner of. So pretty cool stuff for sure. Not an easy place to drive around. We're getting a really super clean driving here so far. The packs are kind of starting to separate a little bit. Got a pretty good middle pack here. You can see on our left-hand side there all those numbers. Ones that are orange looking a little bit hotter than the say yellow ones there are very close driving. As you can see, 1/10 to maybe about 3/10. So the whole field very, very close to each other still, and there's going to be lots of back and forth here. It's really just about making good decisions and trying to keep that momentum up at this stage, and that's exactly what hopefully we're going to see here.
Yeah, the field packed in like sardines for now, but I always talk about the phases and the stages that these races go through. We're in phase 1 right now. Everybody's running calm, running tame, all by themselves for the most part, with some big packs forming and everybody kind of taking it easy. But then we're going to get a bit wild, and when we get a bit wild, I think those tow truck drivers may be able to make a solid month's pay. Jason Chen, though, now your race leader over Tortolo in P2. Dorme Toomey is in 3rd. Guido Morzuki is right in tow in front of your Masters top 3. We've been talking about these racers being the one to contend with week in and week out for the Masters win. Yeah, Alan Degassis, Jim Brewster, and Andrew Love proving why that's the case, running nose to tail in P5, 6, and 7. Then you have to go back to Angel Soto, who's holding on to a comfortable lead in Spec 2. He's at the tail end of this little train of racers at the front end of the field, as 1.5 seconds a gap to himself and Christopher Siriano, which isn't a huge gap, but in a Formula V, that is basically a brick wall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, there's not a lot of power in these, right? So those gaps, you know, a couple tenths is a lot, and especially over the course of just one lap, especially if it's a solo lap, then wow, you know, the person probably has a lot more speed. A little harder to differentiate when there's a draft like this, but nonetheless, we know they're all driving at a, you know, pretty close to the same pace here. If you're Jim Brewster or you're Andrew Love or Alan Degassis back there, right now you're just kind of trying to relax, you're trying to kind of observe, see what's going on. That's what I would be doing anyway. Watching, you know, this back and forth at the front. This is where all the action is happening, where all the driving, not the driving necessarily, everybody's out there driving, but a lot of decision making, let's say, here happening up at the front, where it's a little bit easier mentally if you're in Jim Brewster's position or Alan Degassis' position here, where you can kind of observe what's going on up front, and you're not getting that pressure of, you know, do I have to let this person by? Where am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Are they trying to, as we see Dorme Toomey losing a little bit of grip there on the inside, is actually going to bump into Jason Chen and take him out of contention here so far. And he's actually going to take a bit of a trip into the grass as well right after that, Ron. So Dorme Toomey having some issues.
Yeah, Dorme Toomey and Jason Chen both running into troubles in the span of a couple of moments. Toomey still off the circuit, now rejoining, heading out of the S's. That's got to put him right back in tow with Jason Chen. He may very well be able to line up an overtake here. But two drivers who were really quick early on, drop it out, and as a result of that, we've actually had a breakaway up in the front. Tortello and Guido Marzuki covered by 1.3 seconds. Now, you can see a gap like that close up if a driver's running all by their lonesome, but I flashed my mind back to nearly a year and a half ago on the first ever Formula V broadcast here on SMB. Megan Overstreet won that race at Summit Point, a draft-heavy track. She broke away from the field as a result of a little bit of chaos going on behind. So Tortello may be able to try and repeat in that as we see the replay. The sideways snap from Toomey heading off into turn number 3. Hit the curb a little bit, gives the huge hip check to Jason Chen, tries to throw a block on Guido. A little bit of a panic block there, if I'm being honest, and then another sideways snap. Wonder exactly why that car was all of a sudden running as if the wheels were bolted on sideways.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Like you were saying, hip check, that was probably the most clean hip check I think I've ever seen in any car. It was a genuine hip check. It looked like he genuinely kicked his hip out and checked him there, but I think it was you know, a little bit of curb on the inside there, just unsettled the car a bit, you know, while he was asking it to brake and turn at the same time, possibly lost a little bit of the rear end, and then you kind of flash the tires a little bit after that, and once you flash the tires, you have to kind of baby them a little bit to get them back, and I think that's probably what happened. That, and also, you know, I think you could probably back this up too, Ron, is, you know, when I get into an incident with somebody or something like that happens, it tends to kind of snowball a little bit sometimes. You get a bit of a sympathy maybe off track afterwards. You're like, oh no, I just ruined somebody's race, and then you kind of have a bit of a sympathy screw up right afterwards. So it could be a little A and a little B there, I think.
Yeah, that was a fantastic point that you bring up there, Josh, talking about, oh no, driver upside down farther in the back. That's Jason Chen and
Monty.
Monty upside down, screeching to a halt on his lid. Disaster breaking out as they headed their way out of turn number 7. Chen, who was feeling good about his chances, got a move done there earlier on in the race, and then things go to hell in a handbasket in the span of a couple of moments. Monty, first driver to flip in this series in quite some time, and that was a dramatic way to do it. That's going to allow the front to break up once more. Tortello now leading this race by nearly 2 seconds. Unless something major breaks down, he may be able to win this race by a country mile. But here's what happened between Monty and Jason Chen. Monty goes for the dive on Chen, very similar to what Chen did earlier on. Contact is made on exit and kind of fires Chen off the circuit, but angles him in a way that takes back on Monty on the rejoin, and then Monty got flipped on his lid.
Yeah, that was pretty wild one. I actually thought maybe it was Chen who got into him, but it was kind of Monty with the really aggressive move up the inside. I would think he was probably expecting a little bit more room perhaps there, or maybe given even by Jason Chen. Didn't get it, and ended up getting wheels caught up there. So unfortunately, Monty on his lid, not something we see often. Actually, it's the first time in a while I think we've seen a car on its lid. But I'm going to go back here and see if we can't get a little bit of a better view here perhaps of what happened to from Jason Chen's point of view here. So we're going to see something come up the inside here, I think, and then we're just going to lock wheels, unfortunately. So yep, and just going to toss Monty onto his lid. What a shot there from Jason Chen's cockpit. That must have been pretty wild for him.
Yeah, tossed like a salad. Monty screeching to a halt out of this race entirely. He's down in P25. He's not the only driver who's run into some trouble. Christopher Siriano, he has a black flag. He's slotted in 24th at the moment. Now, not sure why he picked up that black flag. Didn't see an unserved slowdown or anything of the sorts. May have potentially been for some other kind of corner-cutting penalty. As here's a moment from Michelle Lynn as we try and get down to the bottom of this. It was actually a little bit farther up the road. It was Siriano in the Doritos car. I was going to say it's... I think that Dorito may have been thrown a driver's way like a Japanese ninja's throwing star, and he's going to go off the track and...
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. It looks like he got a little tripped up over Kurt Nunes here, so he's running pretty close to him here, looking for a way to get by. And then I think he's kind of just going to get caught out. There's a lot of commotion going up in front of him. Kurt Nunes not really going to fill that gap, you know, in front of him there. I think that Siriano was probably expecting him to fill up in front of him under braking there, and didn't, and just kind of caught him out a little bit. So unfortunately, yep, that one's just going to be Dorito facing the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm not sure what a backwards Dorito would entail. That may be a Super Bowl commercial this upcoming week, or tomorrow, actually, if you tell how much I know about sports. But Siriano Siriano now has rejoined the race. He's down 24th at the moment. Bit of a lazy rejoin there from Haas, just not really holding his brakes, but I'm not sure if that was the reason why he picked up the black flag. But either way you slice it, his race being derailed. Everybody who wants to try and win this race, though, they've got a massive hill to try and climb, which in a Formula V, they're pretty much trying to climb up Everest at the moment. 2.2 seconds a gap between Tortello and Alan DeGassis in P1 and P2 respectively. Now, I said that a 1.5 second margin was a brick wall earlier on. Have we upgraded to cinder block?
Yeah, probably. I think so. It's it's not easy around here. This is we were saying earlier. This passing opportunity down this back straight's probably the best place to get her done. Anywhere else, most likely going to slow you down a little bit. There is that little rip, but before the kind of cut off into the north course there that you can kind of get some things done. You can see drivers looking for gaps here, trying to catch up. Tor just off in the distance there too, just plugging away. These drivers need to work together, Ron, and they're not to catch Tor. They need to draft each other and slingshot each other, and they're racing each other instead. So Tor's probably going to run away with this one, as just my prediction so far here. But you never know with these races. You could, 1 minute you're not working together, the next minute you are here. So we'll see how it goes. It only takes a couple really good rips down that front straight if they're working together to get back into draft range behind Tor. And that's what I would be thinking about if I was DeGassis and Guido. Right now, I'd be slingshotting each other and trying to get up to Tor to see if we can't make something happen there at North Course today. But we shall see how it plays out. Definitely good pack of driving here from Guido back, though. We should see some good stuff. Darman Toomey actually looming in the background there, catching up.
Yeah, so Darman Toomey not out of this race just yet. What we're seeing here, I was thinking about it, which is why you can smell the smoke here in the broadcast booth. But I was seeing all this go on up in the front with Marzuki and DeGassis and Soto and Brewster and Middleton and Love and Toomey all involved in this little train. Probably got to battle it out. This isn't really like a tortoise and the hare kind of situation. This is basically the tortoise, the hare, and the centipede that got to the finish line before the both has been able to just kind of, run by his lonesome, saw all the chaos go on in his rearview mirror, and has just been able to check out. Now, we still have a long way left to go in this race. I said a long way left to go. We are getting close to that halfway mark, but if Tortola, as long as he can keep it clean, and these racers behind still battle like they do, this could be his. I will play devil's advocate, though, a bit here and say that these drivers behind are setting quick times in their own right. The real question is, are they getting quick enough times to close up the gap?
Yeah, exactly. And where are they getting that time is going to matter as well. If they're catching up through the twisty stuff and then slowing down, it just won't help them at all. I think that's probably not the case. They probably are catching up a little bit of time, and they did. They actually did catch up a little bit of time there on Tor. So you saw there the switch of second place between DeGassis and Guido's facilitating that pass, letting DeGassis go by. And then what you're thinking of as the person facilitating that pass is, how can I get this person behind me, around me, and then to a good spot on track that they can make that corner at maximum speed. So you want to make sure that they get by you before the setup for the corner, and then drop back a little bit so that they can take that corner in the optimum line is what the words I'm looking for there. And if you don't do that, if you force the driver off the optimum line, then they're just going to be slower, and you have to be able to facilitate that. It looks like that's exactly what Guido and Alan DeGassis are trying to do here. So who knows, Angel Soto might come in and wreck that party. It only really does take one driver. Sometimes, the most frustrating thing is you are working with another driver, and then somebody catches up and starts battling the two of you, and you're like, all right, I guess that's out the window now. And then you just start fighting for second place. So we'll see what happens here as Tor looks like he's actually pulling away a little bit again, but that might just be through the twisty bits. They may be able to catch up if they play ball here.
Yeah, I think Tor does have the advantage through the turns. Everybody else has the strong advantage heading down the start-finish straightaway. But these racers aren't really playing ball with one another. This swapperoo that's going on with Marzuki and DeGassis, weekend warriors, Formula V veterans, they know how you're going to have to play it. Jim Brewster does as well. I mean, he's a series admin, for crying out loud. Of course, he knows his way around these cars like the back of his
You would
hand.
hope so.
Soto, meanwhile, very quick racer, but there may be some unspoken rules that these veterans know that he's maybe failing to read in the unspoken code of conduct. Getting involved in this fight just going to allow Tortolo to grow that gap and continue to pull away. So with 14 minutes left to go in this race, it's definitely advantage Tolo in terms of winning it. But if this just divulges into a battle for the final spots on the podium, this is going to get wild, because we've got our top three in the Masters category, all fighting for the win in class in a very competitive championship point situation. Well, you can probably take one driver away from that. I saw a driver with a huge sideways snap heading out of turn number 7. I think that was actually a lap car. I will amend that statement. But no, you've got ourselves a pretty good train of cars. It's a very quick Spec 1 drivers, some very quick Masters racers, and Angel Soto looking to prove his place in this series as well in Spec 2.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, the key point there, trying to show himself in Spec 2, and that's really going to throw a wrench up in the gears of those top 4 or 5 drivers there if he's looking for a position. Maybe if I was Angel Soto, I'd be a little more, okay, possibly with just hanging out in P4 now that I'm leading in S2, but you never know, right? He's going to want to jump around. We do have some other battling going on here in some other parts of the course here. Michelle Lin and Jason Chen kind of battling it out here. Michelle looking up the inside now of Jason Chen into T1. Looks like she's going to get that one done pretty handily there. So nice clean pass there on Jason Chen by Michelle Lin. And a couple more battles we're having here. Well, Stephen Hicks here in the back, I believe, with Gary Thompson. So all over the field, this is back in 21st place. And I guarantee you they're here sweating and they're having a blast, Ron. And that's what this is all about. Every week I'm in SRF. I'm hoping I can be up at the front, but I'm having fun in the middle of the pack no matter what. And I think that's what happens out here in the V's as well.
Yeah, one driver, two drivers, I should say. I nearly said one driver's there. My English teacher is rolling in her grave right now. But no, I was going to say one driver who nearly had a very torrid time, 2 drivers who had torrid times. I'm all over the place. Let me try this one again. 2 drivers who nearly had a bad time hanging their way down the start-finish straightaway were the 2 we have on screen right now, Charlie Rogers and Stephen Hicks. Saw Rogers go a little bit deep into turn number 3, but he's still holding on to that final spot inside the top 20. They made contact hanging down the start-finish straightaway, which, even though these cars have the same power as a microwave, you've still got to worry about the contacts hanging down the other quick parts of the racetrack, because one small little snag of a wheel in any sort of open wheel car, and you're going to see a driver turn their race car, their finely tuned racecraft, into spacecraft, lickety-split. So very lucky for the both of them that they avoided any sort of major incident going on there. Certainly could have ended in disaster, that is for darn sure. Right on board with Brian Hansen, the 771 car. Maybe going to try and battle with Wayne Buttermore right in front of Jason Grider, right in front of the both of them. We've got battles all around this racetrack. It's usually in these draft heavy races, we have like one major pack up at the front and then everybody else kind of broken up behind. It is more broken up outside of the top 8, that is in the top 8, granted, but you've still got a 3-car fight with Rob Wright, Ken Poole, and Kurt Nunez. You've got a 3-car fight with Jason Chen, Michelle Lin, and Nick Tullo. And you've got this 3-car fight that we've got on screen right now with Jason Grider, Wayne Buttermore, and Brian Hansen.
Yeah, which is always great, right? You want a little battle, no matter where it is on track or what position you're in. It's always just fun to battle with some other drivers around you. And being on an island by yourself, sometimes just cranking in laps by yourself can be fun. If you're out in front or you're leading or something, or you can just kind of sit back and try to learn some track. But man, we're all here to race each other, right? We want to be side by side. We want to think that we can catch the person in front of us, even if we can't. I'm the kind of forever optimist there. I can be on the last lap of the race in 7th place, and for some reason, I still think I can win it. Something's going to happen here. I can make it. Somebody's going to crash. I'll find a way through that corner, and that's kind of how you have to be as a race car driver. Some people might call it dim or slow or whatever. No, I just call it optimistic out there. Just thinking that you can get anything done, perhaps at any moment. But it is about decision making as well that we're seeing done pretty well here. As Guido, pretty commanding lead here of this extra pack of drivers just behind Tortello, who's now pulling away 3.3 seconds, about 3.8 a couple laps ago. So he's definitely getting away from them a little bit, Ron, and that's going to be because of this battling that we're seeing into T1 every lap and throughout the lap.
Yeah, look at that. Side by side as they headed their way off through turn number 1. 2x2 pack through Horseshoe into 2 and 3 right now. Will Jim Brewster be able to hold on to that P2 spot? Yes, he will. Will Angel Soto get his way up into 3rd? He will not. Now you got to worry about Darme Toomey and Alan DeGassis right in tow. They're side by side into 4 of left hook. Through into the snake section in a couple of moments' time.
Nice
That's a really hair-raising section to try and get a move done, but Toomey in the same part of the racetrack that just about derailed his chances earlier on, proving that he's still here to fight back.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a sweet little pass here. He's going to kind of just duck out of that one a bit. Let, I believe that was DeGassis go wide and pretty easily just fill that space and take it. So he pretty much threw a pick on Alan DeGassis there, and he's going to take that position. Good move.
Yeah, good overtake. Nice maneuver there. Does it clean and effectively. I will say one thing that hasn't gone well is something involving Charlie Rogers. He has a meatball flag at the moment. He's lost touch of the drivers that he was battling with. Now, we did see him in that very close moment with himself. I believe it was Stephen Hicks not too long ago. And here it is, running wide out of 3, into turn number 4, hits the curb, and finds the barrier.
Yeah. Yep, unfortunately, real easy to do that there. Really, really easy to, and you can kind of see it there, too. He's trying to run away as we get a 3-wide battle here. Darman Toomey getting a front row seat behind Jim Brewster. Who's going to make it through this corner first? It looks like Guido Marzucci has the advantage at the moment. Who's that in the hot dog car? Is that Angel Soto? That's a great livery on that car for sure. Looking like the wiener behind the fart racing car of Guido. So we got some silly liveries, some silly names up front. The HP car as well, all food related here up at the front. Darman Toomey going to get hung out to dry a little bit there by the HP car of, I believe that is, who's that? Alan DeGassis out there? Yeah, so anyway, some pretty awesome racing up here at the front for sure. Dicing back and forth. Not exactly sure who is going to come out on top. It could be any one of these 7 drivers.
Yeah, so hot diggity dog for Angel Soto. He's going to try and grab as many spots as he can come time for the very end. Will he be able to get that move done on Guido to jump
Andy Middleton in the HP car, just to correct myself.
Yeah, there is Andy Middleton in the HP car. You know, interesting, we have the HP car and a hot dog car running right behind the fart machine. I wonder if that's like an equation, like if you mix a hot dog with HP sausage, it will not end well for your gastrointestinal system. I've never had HP sauce, just to be super clear. Whenever I think of HP, I think of infuriating printers.
Hey, I think you and about 400 million other people on that printer thing for sure. But oh man, you got to try some HP sometime. You know, it reminds me of my younger days when I was a young man. That used to just be a staple on everybody's table in the 80s and in the 90s. It was everywhere. If you had a steak, you had HP sauce, and that's just the way it went. You'd probably like it. It's a little tangy. It's a little gnarly. It's good stuff, though. It's good with a bite or two of steak, as we're getting more side-by-side racing here between Angel Bolina Soto and Guido Marzucci in the fart car. We definitely have Jim Brewster here just having a look, kind of keeping it pretty, pretty copacetic so far. Usually Jim Brewster is the type that's going to want to get right up in between the 2 cars and kind of, press square for intimidate. He is one of the better drivers at getting the nose up there to intimidate you or getting beside you. But he's playing really passive at the moment, and I would imagine that's because it is so dicey up at the front in front of him. He knows something's going to happen up there, and he's going to be able to monopolize on it at some point. So keep an eye on Jim Brewster, keep an eye on that HP car, and really keep an eye on Darman Toomey back there, because I think they still have some answers for some questions.
And, seeing the mindset that Jim is having at this point, it kind of helps that he is leading in the Masters category, so I think he wants to preserve that. But, if anybody tuning into this broadcast, and this can go for you as well, Josh, if anybody has ever, had, like, a front row seats for some sort of, like, wrestling match or some sort of boxing tournament or whatever the deal may be, more often than not, you're going to look at that fist fight going on in front of you, and you rarely, if ever, would like to join in. I think that's kind of what Jim Brewster is thinking at the moment. He just wants to see these drivers duke it out right in front of him and maybe time a run at the very end. We talked about Jim and him having a photo finish with Tortolo many moons ago here at this exact racetrack. It went the way of Tullo. Maybe he's learned the lessons. He knows how strong the draft is. But I know one thing about Jim Brewster as well. He always likes to have fun in these races. So as much as he's focused on getting some good points on his way to a championship once more, he still wants to try and have a good time. Let's look at Andy Middleton kicking on the Cuisinarts, heading his way into turn number 1, trying to go for a 3-for-1 deal, clipping the coupon there for Middleton. Not going to be able to get all of the moves done, as Guido's going to hold on to second. Because for now, they're still side by side to turn number 2. But Middleton really proving that the drift can be so powerful as they head your way to the line.
Yeah, absolutely. That draft, if you make it work for you and you get a gap, man, it's super, super powerful for sure. So he's going to move himself up into third place for the moment there in the HP car. Darman Toomey has made quite the comeback here, and I feel like he's just kind of biding his time, waiting for the right opportunity to kind of make something happen here. We don't have a lot of time left in the race here, but we know he's got pace. We know he's got guile out there, so we'll see if he can make it through. As actually he's going to get a little bit dummied there, almost by Alan DeGassis, also who you know is always there and ready to throw up a move if you give him the opportunity. Andrew Love, always waiting in the background there as well. He always seems to be looming back there in that position, waiting to pounce on someone. So we'll see on this last lap and this last rip down the straightaway here who is going to be able to hold out. But the story really, Ron, is Tortullo way out here, 5 seconds now, almost 5.5 seconds away from these drivers. So once again, proving you just keep clipping those laps down. Try not to get too caught up with your competitors. You know, he had a little chance to break away from an incident there, and nobody's seen him since.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. That shot that we had heading down the start-finish straightaway, I think really kind of tells you the race that's been going on. Tortullo running a peaceful, quiet day all by his lonesome. Meanwhile, everybody behind him is screaming at the top of their lungs. Guido Marzucchi and Andy Middleton side by side, with Angel Soto trying to stick his nose into the fight once again. They were briefly 3 wide as they had their way into the braking zone through into turn number 1, but they did single file themselves out for the most part. Middleton to Soto still side by side to 3. That's going to be Middleton having to back out, that rightfully so. Stack up got caused Darmaid Toomey and Jim Brewster to start to scrabble right in tow. That's going to be Toomey jumping his way up into 5th. Darmaid Toomey, he's going to get involved in this. I know that he is. And with time running out as well, they're going to be taking the white flag this time by. That came up very, very fast. Darmaid Toomey, I think, is going to look to peak at the right time and try and sneak his way back up into that overall podium.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'd be looking for right now. And you can tell the steering racks have tightened up the speed. The gas pedal is straight to the firewall now because we are on the last lap, and it's going to be now or never for all of these drivers here. So they've been out there kind of biding their time, looking for that spot maybe they can pass, looking for the weakness in their opponent, or perhaps that spot on the track they're not so strong in. Now is the time to jump. So hopefully, you know, you're as a driver hoping that something's going to present itself to you here and you're going to be able to jump on it. But this is really going to tell coming down this front straightaway here. Tortullo about to take the white flag. I believe we should see Barney waving the white flag here. You think, Ron? I think we should. And if we do, this will be the last time that these guys have a chance to make it around the drivers around them here. And it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so the white flag in the air, and as Tortullo is probably drifting off to sleep, we've got this battle right behind. 5 drivers covered by just about nothing. You could put a blanket over all of them and still have room to spare for a ramen shop. Guido Marzucchi holding on to P2 right now. Angel Soto right in tow. But look at that pack behind. Andy Middleton, Jim Brewster, Darmaid Toomey, Alan DeGassis, all looking to stick their nose into this as well. Brewster running by the seat of his pants right now because we were talking about him trying to preserve the lead in the Masters category. Well, look who's right behind him. It's Alan DeGassis, and look who's right behind Alan DeGassis. It's Andrew Love. Your top 3 in Masters,
awesome.
all covered by nothing as Tortullo looks to drive away.
Oh, he's
the battling
right there.
for the podium's going to be intense, and the battling for the win in Masters is going to get hot. But I think one thing that may help out Jim is the fact that Andrew Love is now going side by side with DeGassis off into turn number 7. Marzucchi, Soto, and Middleton now duking out. What is going to happen here? Side by side now, Middleton and Toomey heading their way off in through the S's in the middle part of this lap. The Titan Twisties, a slalomy area. It's Marzucchi holding on to it over Soto. they've broken away. So I think the battling for the final 2 spots on the podium is more or less settled between those two, unless Middleton and Toomey can work together to make some sort of run. But I'd be more likely to find Bigfoot riding a unicorn. Tortello about to win this race by 5.5 seconds, one of the biggest margins that we have seen in quite some time. The battling intensifies farther behind. Marzuki, Soto closing up the gap side by side as they head their way to the line. I think it can give P2 to Soto. Who's going to finish this race?
Goodness.
It's going to be Middleton. Look at the gaps at the end of that race. P2 and P3 covered by less than a half a tenth.
Yeah, and even back here as well between Curtin Nunez and I believe who's that, Ken Poulin, and who's that, Michelle Lynn as well. Super, super close racing all around the field here for sure. A lot of close finishes there at the end. Wayne Buttermore going to come home in 16th, so added some positions or gained some positions there as well during this one. Stephen Westcott coming home in 19th. Stephen Hicks back there in 20th. Christopher Serrano, I believe, going to take 21st. Charlie Rogers 22nd. But what a great show up front from Tortello and the rest of the drivers here behind him as well. Angel Soto, Guido Marzucci, Andy Middleton, Darmin Toomey, all, and Jim Brewster, Alan DeGassis, and Andrew Love actually all putting on a great show today. Soto going to end up taking that second place right at the line. Wow, that was a close one. 33 thousandths of a second there for Soto. Wow.
That was a wild way to end this race. A pretty odd day here for the Formula Vs. Now, I'm waiting to see the jumping shenanigans on the outside turn number 7. Tortello going to tow back to pit lane. I think he was... he probably had to do that weaving coming to the end just to try and wake himself up. We'll have to ask him how long into this race before he started checking his email. Here was the thriller of a finish right behind Marzuki and Soto side by side as they got to the stripe. There's the line. It was about a nose, I would say.
Wow,
like a nose and a half a wheel.
Yep, super, super duper close on that one. See if we can't get some crashes here. I think get some good camera on something. See if we can't find. Looks like maybe they're just going to bring her back to the pit today. That would be a little bit uncharacteristic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be a little
looking
bit
for
odd.
something.
I remember one time the Formula V community was saying that they would just... oh, yeah, there we go. I was going to say the Formula V community once joked that they would just bring it back down pit lane at one point just to screw with us here in the booth. But they said a different word that I can't actually say in the air. But yeah, Wayne Buttermore, not...
No, he was aiming for him, but he took off to the pit. That's pretty funny. Yeah, so not the greatest spots here at VIR to burn it down, but we'll find something. Oh, he landed on his head.
Oh,
it's a Dorito.
Okay. None of what I just said there resembled any human dialect. But I was going to say, one of the little, like, starters gantries around there actually reminded me of a story that one of our SMB colleagues, Jeremy Scott, shared with me one time on a very long show that him and I were doing over.
Whoa, hot dog car.
And apparently there was one time in a sports car race where a Porsche nearly drove up onto one of those stands. So I'll have to get him to share that story one time on an SMB broadcast coming up soon. But let's see this from Guido. Came in for the kill.
No, he didn't go for it.
He landed all 4. God bless him.
That was actually pretty stylish there in the end. Nice little power slide for sure. But I think that we probably have some results to get to here as well while we watch these guys burn it down. See if we can't get some results here for you, Ron.
Yeah, so let us indeed take a look at the results from round number 8 of this Formula V Weekend Warriors season here on SMB. Tortello grabs the victory, winning it by 4.766 seconds. That's probably the biggest margin we've seen in quite some time. Yeah, really that is rare as a Stradivarius here in the Formula Vs. Angel Soto finishes right behind him, P2, winning it in Spec 2. Great result from him. Guido Marzucchi going to end up finishing this race right behind, well, right alongside, I should say, in 3rd. Andy Middleton is in 4th with Darmaid Toomey completing her top 5. Jim Brewster wins it in the Masters category, P6 for him overall. It's Alan DeGassis right behind in 7th. Andrew Love completes your Masters, first Masters bunch, I should say, with Rob Wright and Ken Poulin running at the top 10.
And then right after that, we got Kurt Nunez in 11th, Jason Chen in 12th. A little bit of pitfalls there today, even though he definitely had some pace today, so a little unfortunate for 12th, but he was able to at least finish up the race there just below the top 10. Michelle Lin, Series Admin, Dime Racing driver in 13th place. Nick Tullo in 14th. In 15th, we have Jason Grider. Wayne Buttermore making up some positions today from the back, racing not quite at the back today in 16th place. Trip Isley in 17th. The Spicy Racing Team driver Brian Hansen is going to finish in 18th place. In 19th, we have Stephen Westcott in 20th. Stephen Hicks, Christopher Serrano will fill out 21st. Charlie Rogers in 22nd. Gary Thompson 23rd. Tosh Gorbanov, I believe a new driver with us, actually. Great to see some new drivers out there. Is going to finish 7 laps down today with a little bit of incident. And Jorg Mani ended up skidding across the ground on his head in 25th place.
Yeah, so with a $5 check for that finish and a roll bar that's completely been ground down, Jorg Mani going to round out our field here in round number 8 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Gonna look to have a chat with some of these racers here soon, and I always feel a little bit bad that I always take the race winner, so we're gonna do things a little bit different here, Josh. I'm gonna give you a couple of moments to fully set up, because I want you to have a chat with Tortello, who may be like half asleep to have this interview. It was not the most entertaining race from his perspective, but still a pretty darn good one nonetheless. So I'll drag Tortello in so you can have a chat with a race winner at the end of today's race.
Let's do it. Tor, an amazing race here around VIR North. Looks like you kind of ran away with it today. You had a good lead, and then, a little bit of squabbling and fighting behind you just sort of allowed you to kind of keep consistent and kind of pull away a bit, finishing with one of our biggest gaps I think we've had in a very long time there, from first to second place. So how'd you do it out there today? And is this kind of one of your better layouts, or how do you like VIR?
Actually, if anything, VIR is one of my weaker tracks, and I was really surprised to be able to get that gap today, but it really came down to everyone behind me fighting a bunch and not really caring about catching me, because in the beginning they were, but then they started tripping over each other, and I was able to utilize that and just get on by. But yeah, it feels kind of weird to win by a few seconds. It's usually like hundredths or thousandths, usually on this layout.
Yeah, and you nailed it there for sure. At first it did look like they were going to catch. They kind of playing together, but then some other drivers sort of caught up to the pack there and decided to kind of put their 2 cents in. And yeah, unfortunately they started to lose a bit of time to you, or perhaps fortunately for you there, you're able to run away from it. But that kind of is how this track is. We were saying there's such a big, long drag race basically down the front straight there, where you can draft, but then the twisty, more technical bits, there's just really not a lot of it around here. So you would think that it would be easy to kind of stay up behind someone, but that only works if you're not being attacked by 2 other cars. So you're able to kind of get away from it. I believe next week we are headed to Chicago Street Course, which is going to be a real outlier for us in the V's. I don't think we do too many street courses, and we don't do too many angular tracks that don't have a lot of drafting and stuff. I'm not super familiar with Chicago Street. Do you have any opinions about that one, or are you pretty familiar with it, or no?
Well, funny enough, I actually have a few hours of Formula V testing on that track for just random fun little combinations I've done. Yeah, and it works quite well. I'm a little scared on what to think on when like packs come together, but I'm really excited for it. I mean, it's a new kind of track for Weekend Warriors, and it's gonna be a bunch of fun.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. I really like those one-offs like that. Chicago, I've seen a couple races there, and they've actually gone down really, really well in my experience so far. So it is one of those places where you are kind of battling the track, as well as the drivers. You really got to stay off those walls. And it's pretty intimidating. It can be, as I believe we were calling it, the walls of meat everywhere because of the sponsorship. But pretty cool stuff. Great win today, Tor. Is there anybody you'd like to thank there before we let you go?
Hey, thank you to my team, NIX Vision, and thank you to my content partner, Kumani Mune, and just to everyone that I raced with today, and you guys at SMB.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Tor, and we will see you next week. Great win again today.
Thank you very much.
And there we go. That right there was our race winner, Tortello, and And whenever Tor brings up his content partner there, I can imagine how difficult it would be for me to describe the concept of VTubers to my 68-year-old father. But let's have a chat here with our Spec 2 winner of Angel Soto. I want to ask his thoughts on a P2 drive at the very end. Angel Soto now joining us here on the broadcast booth. Angel, welcome in. It's a win for you in the Spec 2 category and P2 for you at the end of this race. That looked like a pretty wild one here at VIR. How was it from your perspective behind the wheel?
Right, I came in expecting nothing. I was pretty slow during practice and qualifying. I thought maybe just the S2 win, it's gonna be enough. I'll take it easy. And then just lap by lap, the draft and my driving got me more confident and kept going up and up. So I'd say this is one of the best races I've ever done, and I'm pretty happy with the result. Of course.
Yeah, very good result for you. Not only the win in class, but a P2 finish overall. Pretty much best of the rest considering how far Tor was out in front. I want to ask you about this track. You know, you don't usually see the VIR North configuration get used very often, but it's a bit of a stalwart circuit here in the Formula Vs. It gets used a heck of a lot. So how did you enjoy running around here? Do you like it, or do you kind of wish that we were running on the bigger layout here?
No, I'd actually say that this configuration is my favorite out of all of VIR. It's got the perfect combination between like the long straight for drafting and then the technical infield. It gets my blood pumping, I guess. So you have to be very vigilant on every corner because even a slight touch of a curve that you didn't plan, you get sent. So it always keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, super tough racetrack here, but you coped with the challenge brilliantly. You walk away with another Spec 2 win here this season. Next time out, though, we're going to be running at a far different racetrack, the Chicago Street Course, in 1 week's time. We've only seen the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors run there, never the Vs. So what are your thoughts heading off into the unknown in 1 week's time?
It's definitely going to be an unknown for me. I've never ever touched that track before. It's gonna be an interesting challenge with how many 90-degree corners, how many blind corners there are. I'm gonna try to go in like this week, go in with zero expectations and see what the racing brings that day.
Yeah, it is a very nice looking paint scheme that you got out there. But thank you for giving us insight on the race. And I'll ask you for any thank yous or shout outs before we let you go and celebrate the Spec 2 win of the Hot Dog Mobile.
Yeah, nothing much. Just thank you to all the guys in the Weekend Warriors League, which are always a blast to race. And thank you to you guys for the broadcasting.
Well, it's our treat as always, Angel. It's a pleasure covering the racing, and happy to see you get the win in Spec 2. We'll see you next time out at the Chicago Street Course.
Love that paint job. Gotta love the wiener car.
Yeah, hot diggity dog. That right there was your Spec 2 winner, Angel Soto. Now that I've said that, I will make that a weekly occurrence until somebody properly tells me to shut my trap. But we have some drivers looking to have a chat, so I'll pass it back off to you to have the last word.
Whoops, sorry, I think you cut out there for a sec, Ron. We missed you.
Yeah, I'll pass the mic off to you to have the last word.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yep, great race today for sure. We did have a couple more in the booth there, but I think that's all the time we have for today. The, North Course bringing us more really good racing around here. I'm a huge fan of the big layout, but, the North Course keeps surprising me with good racing. I'm not sure if it's just cutting up into that section a little bit early there. Maybe not that having that big, long back straightaway there just sort of does add a bit of a different layer. We get a little bit more laps done, a little bit more frenetic out there, but Tor able to pull away. My takeaway from this one is you've got to stay close to the drivers around you, and you've got to work together, or you'll just watch the drivers walk away. And I must say, Ron, I am very, very excited about the Chicago Street Course next week. I've been looking forward to this one all season, and I kind of can't wait for it to go down.
Yeah, that's going to be a wild race for the next round of the championship, and happy to have all of you on this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today. If you have enjoyed the show, how about you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. It's a good race here at VIR North, and we got a lot of action to look forward to here on SMB week in and week out. Of course, in 1 week's time, we'll see the series rock up to the Chicago Street Course here for the Formula V's. Spec Racer Fords tomorrow are going to be making their triumphant return at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. That's going to be a bit of an oddity there. XSLR is going to be returning for round 18 of the season at Sebring. I believe we are, in fact, racing tomorrow night, despite the fact that the Super Bowl is going on.
Yep.
So nobody's going to be there. Nobody's going to be watching, so I'll be able to say Nick Fleck, Blondie Quando Flern as much as I would like to on the air. But a lot of stuff to look forward to here on SMB. The SRG F4 and F3 series on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. American Muscle Series has a special event this upcoming week, I believe, as well. Just a lot of stuff. It gives you one heck of a reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. I think for this broadcast here today for round number 8 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at VIR, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Joshuah Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's show, and Russell Telker for making today's broadcast possible, I say thank you also very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.